Yo, what's up, MG fam? Welcome back to the Prairie Legacy here on College Hoops 2K8, and you already know what time it is, man. It's time for the off season. So after winning our first ever national championship, we're gonna try to do it again. So let's start with our championship roster, where we only had 2 seniors, man. Despite losing those key players, we're confident that our returning players will step up to the challenge and lead us to another successful season. Now we're gonna move on to the individual awards, where we had some outstanding performances this year. First up, we have the Player of the Year award, which was won by Maryland's senior shooting guard Spanky. He finished with an impressive 28.4 point per game average despite his team not making the tournament. However, they did manage to win the NIT. The Mid-Major Player of the Year award goes to the James Madison guy, Tyler Dillon, who finished with a remarkable 24.9 point per game average, and he added 7 rebounds to that. And the Coach of the Year award goes to Coach Ed Cooley, the Providence head coach. Despite losing to us in the national championship game, he led his team to an impressive season, and he deserves some type of recognition for his efforts. The Defensive Player of the Year award goes to Ali Fontenay. The center of the Tar Heels averaged 1.7 steals per game and 2.1 blocks, proving to be a force on the defensive end. And the Big Man of the Year award goes to Willie Hargett, the center from Cincinnati. He averaged 27.1 points per game. His dominant performances were a key factor in his team's success this season. And the Freshman of the Year award goes to the Memphis shooting guard, Jarrah. He averaged 13.4 points per game and 6.2 rebounds. Despite being ranked as the 30th best shooting guard coming out of high school, he proved himself to be a valuable asset to his squad. So now we're going to slide to our conference awards. And as you guys know, we were the regular season and postseason conference champs in the SWAC, finishing the season undefeated in the conference. Once again, our coach, Corey Ubaka, was rightfully awarded as the SWAC Coach of the Year once again. And moving on to the SWAC Player of the Year, this award goes to Arkansas Pine Bluff, Jabari Sauchu, who had a phenomenal season with a 23 point per game average and 13.7 rebounds, but his team didn't perform as well as he did. And the SWAC Freshman of the Year award goes to Grambling's power forward Adam Kuyate, who finished the season with a 7-point average with 10.9 rebounds per game. Now on to the all SWAC teams. Our very own DeMarcus Stapley was selected for the first team, while Mick McCoy, Mitch McCain, LaForest Cameron, and Corey Reeves made the second team. And unfortunately, our squad didn't have any freshmen selected for the freshman all SWAC team, but Jackson State ended up taking up 2 of those spots. Now as we move forward to the next season, we will have to say goodbye to 2 important players. Yes, you guys can see they're graduating this year. Our center, Corey Reeves, came to us as a 3-star center out of high school and won the Freshman of the Year award here in the SWAC. His senior season was his best, averaging 15.1 points per game, and he added 7.1 rebounds. We will also be losing our small forward DJ Miller, who was also a 3-star recruit, who saw a decline in his role as better players were added to the team through recruiting. However, he was still an important piece to our championship run. Now, we're going to slide on to the upgrades, man. The upgrades for our coach, man. Coach Ubaka. We're going to upgrade his skills by adding 2 skill points. One to his offense and the other to his discipline. With these upgrades, his offense is now a B+, and his discipline is at a B+ also. And now we're going to slide on to the coach carousel. There were several big-time jobs available, but Coach Ubaka decided to stay put for at least one more season. However, we did see some major coaching changes, with Damon Stoudemire taking the Syracuse job after Coach Boeheim retired. And we also seen Kansas, Stanford, and Louisville get new coaches after their previous ones retired as well. And now we're sliding on to the transfer recap, and we saw that UC Irvine and Mount St. Mary's signed the 2 best players available. Both of those guys were power forwards, and we could see these teams making a big improvement this year. And speaking of signing players, we're going to slide to the recruiting recap, where we were able to sign 2 3-star players. We couldn't sign any big names like 5 stars or 4 stars, but we were able to sign our guy Emerson Townsend and a shooting guard, Jameer Barrett. Townsend gives us another great rebounder with great defense, while Barrett seems to be a 3-and-D guy with great athleticism. Now we're going to give you guys a preview of our roster for next season. We have a solid one, with our best player being our shooting guard, DeMarcus Stapley, followed by LaForest Cameron. Even though Lowell McCoy, aka Big Mac, isn't our highest rated player, we know he will be one of our best performers this year. And off the bench, we expect the freshman Jameer Barrett to be our top scorer for the second team. So that wraps up the off-season part of this video, and now we're going to slide it over to Greg Gumbel and Clark Kellogg for their thoughts on the upcoming season.
Welcome to 2K Sports Studios. I'm Greg Gumbel with Clark Kellogg. We're here with the 2K Sports Season Preview Show. These are the top 5 teams in college hoops as we begin the new season. The North Carolina Tar Heels come in as the #1 ranked team, followed by USC, Florida, Purdue, and Georgia Tech. Clark, what's your take of the teams that make up the top 5?
These are some outstanding teams, Greg. Fun to watch. Not many weaknesses. They do so many things well on the basketball court. It's not surprising to see them in the top 5. Every time these teams take the floor, you're assured of seeing entertaining basketball.
The North Carolina Tar Heels are projected as the favorites here in the early going. They've got a whole crew of high school Mr. Basketballs on this team.
A team is usually happy to land one Mr. Basketball, but with the number they have, this could be a golden era of basketball success at this university. There's nothing but good times ahead.
USC is in the #2 spot. This university has been a regular destination for many of the most talented players in the country.
They don't have 3 or 4 All-Americans from high school. They've got 5. When you can put that level of talent on the floor at the same time, it's almost unfair.
Florida comes in as #3. They have no fewer than 3 high school All-Americans on their roster.
If this coaching staff is able to work with those All-Americans and develop them at the collegiate level, there will be no stopping this squad.
Purdue starts the year as the 4th-ranked team. They bring back 4 starters, and that should pay huge dividends for them this year.
I can't tell you what an advantage that is for them. There's so much turnover in the college game these days that having 4 starters coming back is almost unfair, Greg.
Georgia Tech is the #5 team. They're going to have to find someone to fill the void left by their departed leading scorer, Clark.
The important thing for them is not to thrust someone into that role just for the sake of it. It will be a much smoother transition if the players are allowed to ease into their new spots.
Here's the next group of teams in our preseason top 25. What's your impression of that set of teams?
These teams might not be in the top 10, but you better not overlook them. I would venture to say that several of these teams will win their conference and surprise people in the tournament.
The Providence Friars, the #9 team, have stirred up a lot of talk in the offseason. One bit of good news for them, they have last season's leading rebounder coming back for another year.
With that low-post presence already established, they'll have a little bit of swagger heading into the season. I look for them to be sharp right from the start.
The West Virginia Mountaineers, the #14 team, have also generated a lot of interest. They have no fewer than 3 former high school Mr. Basketballs on this team.
There are a lot of differences between the high school and college games, but give me 3 former Mr. Basketballs, and I think I could field a pretty good team, just like the one we're looking at.
Okay, Clark, let's take a look at the teams that close out the preseason top 25 poll. What do you think of this collection?
It doesn't get much weaker as you go down the list. Even near the end of the top 25, we see teams that could make a serious go at the national championship if things fell into place. I wouldn't count anyone out.
The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, the #21 team, could be one to watch. A pair of players named Mr. Basketball in their home state form the backbone of this team.
Just to have 2 players who bring that kind of confidence, talent, and winning attitude to the table gives this team an advantage that very few schools have.
The Temple Owls, the #25 team, are also worth keeping an eye on. They're in one of the power conferences, Clark. You think they'll be able to withstand the tough schedule?
Their regular season is going to be a melee with all the other tough teams in the conference. The key for them to survive is going to be consistency. They can't afford to drop any easy games.
As usual, we have a lot of new coaching hires to tell you about as we start the season. Here are the coaches who made a change this offseason. Some very interesting moves on the list, to say the least. The Syracuse coach is one of the hires that drew a lot of media attention. The Syracuse Orange have a lot of fans that are delighted to have a coach of his ability, Clark.
He's yet to find his way to that final weekend, but he still has an impressive resume. His new school is certainly hoping he can add a Final Four run to his list of accomplishments.
Coach Hunter also made a move to a new school, and that's generated some excitement on that campus. The Kansas Jayhawks are a team looking to rebuild under their new leader.
This is a big break for him. He's paid his dues with a lot of stops along the coaching highway, and now it's time for a new beginning. We wish him all the success in the world, Greg. He definitely deserves a fair shot.
We now head to the part of the show where we break down the top players in the nation and show you our preseason All-American list. What you see before you is the cream of the crop in college hoops. What a list. The Syracuse Orange are pinning their hopes squarely on this young man's shoulders, Clark.
Hill is the first player on the list for good reason. Feels like this guy's been playing college basketball forever. This will be his 4th year as a starter, but I still don't take him for granted. and I think this will be his best season of all of them.
As for our next first-teamer, Kansas is more than willing to go into battle with him, Clark.
Casey is simply a spectacular player. It isn't out of the realm of possibility to say that he might even be a little bit underrated. I know it seems far-fetched to say that about a preseason All-American pick, but I'm not sure people realize just what a huge year he's in for, Greg.
Next up is a player that's drawing comparisons to some of the all-time college greats. The Providence Friars are fortunate to have him in their corner.
Ball is one of my favorite players in the country. He was a monster under the boards last season. He came away with an average of 6 rebounds a game. I expect him to hit the glass with even more passion this year. He is a rugged competitor.
Let's move on to a player who's worked very hard to earn his spot on the list. The Boston College Eagle can depend on a solid effort from him each and every night.
Bridgewater is going to play a huge role in his team's success. He earned a reputation last year as one of the best low-post defenders in the nation. One look at his block totals from last year tells you all you need to know. He averaged more than 2 a game. Opponents are afraid to take the ball inside when he's in the game, and that gives his team such a big edge.
And finally, we have another superb player to round out the first team. The West Virginia Mountaineers will probably get used to seeing him make the impossible look ordinary.
Frisbee is going to have his own personal highlight reel by the end of this season. He's a former high school Mr. Basketball he was Virginia's Mr. Basketball in high school. He's a hero in his home state, and he hasn't let those fans down. He's taken his game to the next level and improved as the competition has gotten stiffer.
Now let's move on to the second team All-Americans. Not such a bad list, huh? These elite players all have the potential to have historic seasons if the right pieces fall into place. The North Carolina Tar Heels have built their team around this young man's talent. I'd say that's a pretty good idea.
Clark was close to a spot on the first team, but there was too much competition this season. He was his team's leading rebounder a year ago, and he looks poised to claim that title again this year. He brings unbelievable physicality to the court and plays a tough, intense brand of basketball.
The next player on the team is a sensational player in his own right. Notre Dame is in for a great year if he lives up to his potential.
Stockelper is in the spotlight for all the right reasons. He can make things happen on the basketball court thanks to his unique ability to read and understand defenses, while most players are just trying to come up with their next move. He's 3 steps ahead of the game. And that's what separates the good players from the great.
We can all look forward to some very exciting highlights from this young man this year. The Wisconsin Badgers are looking for a lot of production from him, and they probably won't be disappointed.
Washington is an extremely powerful weapon for his team. There's plenty to like about him as a player. He's got that deadly combination of smarts and physical skills that makes him so difficult to defend. A coach's mentality in the body of a world-class athlete. Any questions as to why he's on the list?
Our next All-American may have designs on the first team by the end of the season. Georgia Tech has one of the most reliable go-to guys in the country in him.
Sidney is one of the great talents in the college game today. If I had to pick some front-runners for the Player of the Year award, he would be right there on the list. I've seen him take over games even when he isn't scoring 30. There are some great scorers among these All-Americans, and he's one of them. But he does much more than score.
Here is the final player to cap off our list of All-Americans. The Kansas Jayhawks know who their fan favorite is going to be this year.
Ocasio is ready to have a breakout season. He was a multiple threat on the offensive end of the court last season, and there will be more of the same this time around. He led his team in scoring, and it's a lock that he'll do it again.
All right, Clark, that should do it for us here in the studio. For myself and all of us here at 2K Sports, thanks for watching our season preview. Enjoy all of the college hoops action to come, everyone.
All right, so after that preview, which covered all of the top teams in the nation, you guys see, they didn't even rank your boy. They didn't even give us no recognition. Prairie View won the championship. They said it was a fluke, but no ranking, no respect, no acknowledgement or nothing. So we're going to slide over and give you guys a preview of the SWAC, which some of you guys really don't care about. But we got to show some love to the teams out here in the SWAC because Prairie View at least is putting them on the map. But first up, we have Alabama A&M, who finished 4th in the SWAC last season with a record of 12-15 and 9-9 in the conference. This team has talent in their front court, with freshman power forward Kabir being their standout player. And next, we have the Alabama State guys, who finished 8th in the SWAC with a record of 8-18, 7-11 in the conference. And their best player is Chip Conklin, a power forward. And this team is also heavily reliant on their front court. And next is Alcorn State, who finished 7th in the SWAC last year with a record of 11-18. 7-11 in the conference. This is one of the top teams in the SWAC this year, and they're led by their sophomore small forward, Vic Duffy. And now on to the Arkansas Pine Bluff guys, who finished 9th in the SWAC last year with a record of 9-22, 6-12 in the conference. This is probably one of the weakest squads in the SWAC, and their best player is their freshman point guard Archibald. And next we have Grambling, who finished 3rd in the SWAC last season with a record of 15-17, 9-9 in the conference, and they are the 2nd best team in the SWAC behind us, and their best player is their shooting guard Jarrell. And following that, we have Jackson State, who finished 2nd in the SWAC last season with a record of 11-19, but they finished 10-8 in the conference. Unfortunately, this team doesn't look that strong this year, with their best player only being a 68 overall. And moving on, we have Mississippi Valley State, who finished 5th in the SWAC with a record of 10-18, 9-9 in the conference. And this team was somewhat disappointing last year, but they have hope to bounce back this season with the leadership of their senior guy, McNerlin. And next we have Southern, who was the worst team in the SWAC with a record of 9-22, 6-12 in conference play. This year, it looks like it will be more of the same with this team, with their best player being Prophet, who is a 58 overall. And last but not least, we have Texas Southern, who finished 6th in the SWAC last season with a record of 11-14, 8-10 in the conference, and this season should be a better one for them with the help of their senior power forward Reynolds and their freshman guards Austin and Coombs. So the SWAC should be a little more challenging this year. We're going to see if that's going to be true. We want at least someone to threaten the throne, at least say a few bad words, so we can be waking up during conference play. We go to sleep during conference play, the postseason, and then we wake back up in the tournament. But we always try to schedule some pretty tough non-conference games, and we have a treat for you guys this year. But I appreciate you guys for watching this video. That wraps up our off-season / preseason preview, and we're ready to jump into next season and repeat as the SWAC champs and the national champs. But don't forget to hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to the channel, man. It's your boy McGruff, and I'm out of here. 1.